Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Helena Hustle Podcast. I'm super excited this morning. I have Keif Storrar with me. He agreed to come on the podcast, and really looking forward to having this conversation. Thanks for coming, Kief.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Would you take a minute and tell us about who you are and about your family and all that?
Sure. Well, I'm Keif Storrar. I'm an attorney here in town with Doubek, Pyfer, and Storrar, and we have a personal injury law firm that represents people that have been harmed by other people's negligence or medical malpractice type things, car wrecks, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of complicated insurance issues that we deal with, helping people to recover after a wreck and make sure they get compensated for their injuries. I grew up in, I was born in McCall, Idaho.
Okay.
Grew up in running around in the woods. We lived out in the woods about 10 miles out of town.
Nice.
So we did.
Is it pretty mountainous there?
It's very mountainous, yeah.
Okay,
Sort of central Idaho.
Hunting, fishing?
We didn't hunt growing up. We did a lot of fishing
Nice.
On the lakes and hiking up to the mountain lakes
Awesome.
and that sort of stuff. Lure fishing, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was on the cross-country ski team there. Grew up downhill skiing and cross-country skiing, so it's one of those skills that you never lose as you get older, and I never remember learning, which is great. So
I've never cross-country skied. I know you've told me about it, but yeah, it seems like a good way to get an exercise in.
Yeah, it is. No, it's a really, and you get out there and it's just so silent out in the middle of the forest with all the snow.
Right.
And so I went to school there till about 4th grade, and then after my parents got divorced, moved kind of back and forth between Moscow and McCall, and then
Not Moscow.
Moscow,
I've
Idaho.
been corrected on that before.
Yeah, not Moscow, Russia.
Yeah.
So then we went to high school full time in Moscow, and graduated there in 2001.
Okay.
So that's kind of my backstory. I went to University of Montana undergrad. I got a wildlife biology degree. I think hiking around in the woods so much growing up, that seemed like the natural fit for me.
Heck yeah.
And as I did that, I got jobs with the Natural Heritage Program, hiking around Montana looking for frogs and snakes and lizards. And
that's awesome.
We were called the Reptile and Amphibian Inventory Crew. That's what we had some nice
like
shirts with a big lizard on, or a big salamander on it. It was a pretty fun job. I got paid to hike in the woods, and not very much, but I destroyed my cars going to these 4-wheel drive roads to find, frogs at some random mountain lake.
So tell me about that. You go up to a lake, what do you do?
We would just walk around and with our dip net, and you just look to see what kind of frogs are there, you document how many you saw. You'd look for, in the springtime at least, the larvae, the little tadpoles, and see what you found. And you document if you saw fish as well, because obviously fish are a predator of little tadpoles.
Oh, okay, right.
And so, we just sort of take temperatures. You take the height of the mountains or the trees around the pond, so you could calculate what part of the pond got the most sun.
Oh, wow.
And so that the usually it's the northwest corner of the pond gets the most sun. So if you're ever looking for frogs, and there's a shallow northwest corner, you're probably going to find them there.
Oh, cool. Did not know that.
Yeah.
So then what would that information, all the data you guys were collecting, what would that be used for?
Well, so we would go to and survey an entire watershed. We'd survey every water body, whether it was a portion of a wetland next to a stream, a pond, a spring, a natural spring coming out of the hillside. and we'd have to survey every one of them in the whole watershed. And then that kind of you can extrapolate that data out to similar watersheds in the area to say, okay, well, if we found them here, they're most likely in the next one over too, with probably similar type populations. And then that all gets, my boss at the time, Bryce Maxwell, he's actually the director of the Natural Heritage Program here in town now.
Oh, cool.
He was doing his PhD work, and this was a side project to help, I think, fund it and do the inventory work. So you can figure out sort of a base population of what's in the state. And then, if there's some major project, they can rely on that data to say, okay, if we have to do a environmental analysis to develop some, gas or resource on federal or state land, they can go in and draw from this data. And it's actually part of a public database now. And it collects all sorts of data for, frogs, fish, bats, terrestrial animals.
That seems like it'd be a ton of fun. Were you married at the time?
No.
Okay.
No,
Had you met your wife?
No, I didn't meet my wife till later.
How'd that happen?
That was in law school.
Okay.
I met her. She was at University of Montana as going to get her school counseling degree, and I met her while I was in law school. So I went to law school in 2010.
So you got your undergrad. You were doing the environmental job, and so tell me what made you choose to pivot and go to law school?
I got after 5 years of hiking around the woods, I got more into politics and started doing some canvassing door to door, and I realized, look, I'm gonna have to get more of a degree to move forward in life. I was at that point, my jobs were 6 months or less.
Oh wow, okay.
So I was always looking for the next job
right.
as a biologist, and it's just hard. And really to get it more advanced to land like a good job in the biology field, you have to have a master's or a PhD.
Wow.
And so I was looking at doing that, but then I got more involved in politics and just sort of liked that side of it. And I decided, well, maybe I could go to law school and get into environmental law and help that way. And once I got into law school, I really liked the aspect of trial law and getting up in front of people and advocating for clients that are injured. And so that's why I ultimately went into become a trial lawyer.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then you have, you're married and you have kids, right?
Yeah. So we got married in 2016 and we've got 2 kids, a 5-year-old Iris and a 4-year-old Zinnia.
Nice.
2 flower girls, we call them.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
My son turns 4 next month or in May, so yeah. Okay, so one thing that I like to do with my guests, Kief, is to get to know you a little bit better. In no particular order, let's do the 2 truths and a lie, and I'll try to guess the lie.
Okay. All right. I can ride a unicycle, I can play the violin, and I've been to Guatemala.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to say the violin is the lie.
That's the truth.
Really? What's the lie?
Guatemala.
Oh, okay.
Never been to Guatemala.
I figured you could ride a unicycle, though. How was that? Was that tough to learn?
Oh, we just did a lot of goofy stuff in high school, and we learned how to ride a unicycle.
Heck
so
yeah. I've always wanted to learn how to ride a unicycle. Great way to meet girls, right?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Maybe. And so then, do you still play the violin?
I don't play it anymore. I played it up through high school and played orchestra, but I kind of dropped it after that and haven't played it since. But I'm trying to, I just found my tiny little baby violin when I started playing when I was like 5, which is just this tiny little thing. And I got to put some strings on it, but my daughter's interested, so
nice.
Maybe she'll want to play.
My niece plays the violin, and she's so good at it. Violin is, I love, to someone who can play the violin, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to Yellow Card?
No.
Okay, so they're like a punk rock group, but they had a violin player, and it totally set them apart, and it made their music super unique and super cool.
I bet.
But then, yeah, you listen to like the super professionals, and it's just incredible. So, yeah, I did not know that about you. That's cool. And Guatemala, is that on the list of things to do? No,
probably not anytime soon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, wow. And what sorts of things are you? You've been in Helena for how long?
Since 2015.
Okay. So, what do you like to do around here? What do you like to do with your wife?
Well, love skiing in the winter. Now it's snowing outside again.
Yeah.
Almost April.
Yep.
6 months of winter this year. We love going to Great Divide, skiing up there, and the girls are finally at an age where you can sort of teach them a little bit better.
Nice.
And so we've been going up there skiing, winter cross country skiing at Mac Pass or the golf course, and then outdoor activities mainly. In the summer, hiking and mountain biking. We live kind of uptown near the cathedral, so we can bike to the trails from our house, which is really nice.
Nice. Have you done the jump park there?
The Sleeping Giant, or
up by the archery range, they have a series of jumps that they've built.
Yeah. I'm not that good. I mean, I can go over a hump, but I'm not jumping it, and I'll probably fall and break my arm, and I don't want to do that.
I tried one of those, and I was not prepared, and I almost died. So,
yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to going mountain biking with you this summer.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's one thing that brought us to Helena. Is there's just so many great outdoor activities here. Mountain biking, there's lakes and streams and rivers and hunting, fishing, and camping.
Yeah, now Helena is a great community for that, and the access is so incredible. I mean, it's right in town.
Right.
There's like 5 or 6 trailheads to the mountains right in town.
Super easy.
Whereas, Missoula, you kind of you have the M there, but you still have to drive 15 minutes even to go up to Patty Canyon or to the Rattlesnake, and
it's so easy here.
Bozeman, you got the in-town trails, but then you got to drive up to the mountains. And here it's like you can either walk from your house, or even if you live in the valley, you got the North Hills, which are great.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there mountain biking there?
Yeah, there's mountain biking around there.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to
those usually dry off quicker too, so that's where it opens up earlier.
Yeah, the northwest part, right?
Yeah.
It's the warmest.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like a lake. And so you moved here in 2015. Did you immediately start at your current law firm?
Yeah. I was working, I clerked for a judge out of Butte, Judge Kurt Kruger, who's been there a long time, and for 2 years out of law school. And then I wanted to do plaintiff's work, so I started talking to the plaintiffs firms in town, and at the time it was Doubek, Pyfer, and Fox. So I
not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, my name's on the end now, but I talked myself into a job. I guess I just called them up and said I'd be interested in hearing about your practice. And
were they hiring at the time?
They weren't advertising.
Oh, cool.
But then they called me back for a second interview as well, and then decided to offer me a job.
So how long has Doubek, Pyfer, and Storrar been around?
Well, I became a partner 2018.
Or I guess just the firm
in
general.
The firm's been in town for over 40 years.
40 years, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, before it was small hatch, and then John joined the firm in, I think, 76 or 78. And it became small hatch in Doubek shortly thereafter. And then eventually Rick Pyfer joined, and then throughout the years, I think the name had a couple changes, but Doubek and Pyfer was for a long time, and they're well known within the community. John grew up here. I think he was born in St. Louis, I think, and his dad was one of the only ER docs in town. He moved out here when he was about 10.
In town here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So John's been here a long time, grew up here, and then Rick as well. His parents, Rick was born in East Helena and grew up right on actually you can see his house as you drive through East Helena. Now the highway's between the slag pile and his house. That used to not be a highway. It used to just be the American Kemet there. But there were baseball fields and stuff right behind his house, but now it's the highway.
Helena's, I'm sure, changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Growing.
Yeah.
And so you became a partner in 2018?
Yeah, they made me a partner in 2018, and And then Pat Fox left the firm and has a different firm in town he's working with, Hunt and Fox. Jim Hunt is another long-term trial attorney in town. And then Rick retired in 2020, but we've kept his name as part of the firm because he's been such a long-term name in the community.
Oh, cool. And you guys specialize in personal injury.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a chiropractor, I've sent you patients, you've sent me patients. And for me to have someone that I know is going to represent my patients well, that's super important to me. And you've taught me a ton because I really didn't know really how this worked. So let's say somebody got injured. Let's just, for easy story, they got in a car accident, they got hit, the other driver was at fault. There's misconceptions about what they need to do at that point. As far as hiring an attorney, doing all of that, can you walk us through maybe some of those common misconceptions and what is recommended for someone to do in that situation?
Sure. I think it depends on the severity of the crash, first off. Generally, what happens after a crash is you report it to your insurance company and the at-fault insurance company. And when you get in a crash, if the police show up, the first thing they give you is your insurance exchange information.
Okay.
And the policeman or cop or highway patrolman looks at your insurance card you should have in your glove box, and he writes it on a slip and says, okay, here's his insurance, and you swap insurances. The at-fault driver doesn't always inform their insurance that there was a wreck, so it's good to just make sure that they know that there was a wreck. But if you're injured and you're really injured, especially broken bones, concussion type stuff, you really probably need an attorney. If you're not injured and there's really not much of a claim there, you're not going to need an attorney. Right. But if you've got an injury, we help manage that care to make sure that that you feel like you're going to get your injuries paid for and covered by the insurance. There is an obligation under Montana law for the at-fault insurance company to pay for medical bills. Okay. A lot of people don't know that. And so when they get in a car wreck and the ambulance shows up, they say, no, I don't want to go to the ambulance because I don't want to have to pay for it.
$1,000.
Which is understandable, right. But if the other person's clearly at fault in the crash, then their insurance company is going to have an obligation to pay those bills for you. So a lot of people don't know that, and then they refuse ambulance, which is fine. But if they go to the ER later or urgent care the next day, you can know that they're going to get covered by the right. at-fault insurance.
And to meet with you, it's really a no-risk thing for somebody, because you'll either tell them, hey, there's not much of a claim here, or hey, there's a claim here and we'd love to represent you. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I think that's something I didn't understand. I felt like, okay, if I got in a wreck, they're at fault. I don't want to go, pay a lawyer some money if they're going to say, hey, there's nothing going on here. But you can find out. And
we do an initial, whenever anyone calls, initial free consultation. Right. Basically, it's a case analysis to determine if it's worth taking on the case.
So why would somebody who got injured, is clearly the other person's fault, why would they not just handle it themselves and let their insurance pay for the bills?
Well, because at-fault insurance companies want to protect their bottom line. Right. And so when they know that you're not represented by an attorney, they know that you probably don't know what your rights are under the law. And there are plenty of examples I could give when, they just simply don't tell someone what their rights are, or they just forget or don't pay for some sort of damage that the person's owed. But on top of that, they'll try to often settle a case prematurely and say, okay, well, here's $2,000 if you sign this release and promise not to sue our driver or who are insured who hit you.
And if you don't know your rights, you're like, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
I could use $2,000.
Maybe, or maybe, maybe they're just try to talk you into it or undervalue your injuries. Like they don't think you're as injured as you are.
Right.
And we get a lot of people that come to us after, 6 months with, and they're frustrated because the insurance company doesn't want to pay for their medical bills or wants to settle with them and they feel like they're still injured. And so we get benefits or medical sort of reestablished, or if the insurance adjuster being real stubborn, we'll just have to file a lawsuit and sue them and get another attorney involved. But we have lots of cases where people come in with I have one I just got done the other day. She came in probably 8 months ago with a $3,000 offer to settle everything. Okay. And the company had said, we're not going to pay future medicals anymore. Well, I got involved. I got them to start paying medicals again. And, we just exhausted the policy for $25,000.
Versus $3,000.
Yeah, versus $3,000. And they paid for her medicals for 8 months.
They would have been stuck paying for that on their own, correct?
Yeah, or run it, or exactly. If they have health insurance, they can run it through their health insurance. Right. But you still have deductibles and co-pays and that sort of stuff. So you're still going to be out of pocket.
Right. It's essentially a way to just totally protect yourself, right?
By getting an attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I've got plenty of people that call and they'll tell me, here's what happened. We really weren't injured. We went to the ER or the urgent care, one time and then walked away and are fine. I'm not going to get involved in a case like that. I could negotiate probably a little bit higher settlement, but we work on what's called a contingent fee agreement. So it's, you don't owe us anything. You don't pay our fees until we recover compensation for you. So if we go all the way to trial and we spend $20,000 on a case and we get a zero verdict, our clients don't owe us anything. That usually doesn't happen. But, we work on a 1/3 fee for all our cases. If we go to litigation, it goes up, but to a 40%. But that's, it's well worth it when you think about, a $3,000 offer and we get them 25.
Right.
You can see where an attorney's knowledge and skills come in to negotiate.
As an attorney, do you try to avoid going to trial? Is it easier to take care of it before then, or do you enjoy that part of the job?
Oh, I like going to trial. It all just depends on the facts of the case and really how reasonable the insurance adjuster on the other side is being in trying to settle it. So every case is different, but it's going to trial is part of the job. You got to be prepared for it and ready to go. But in all reality, most of our cases settle because our clients might want to settle, or the insurance company values the case in a way that's reasonable, and we don't have to go down the long road of litigation.
Right. How long after an injury can someone still work with you, for example?
You mean after they get in a car wreck?
Correct.
Or something? Well, if it's a car wreck, there's a 3-year statute of limitations before you have to file a case.
Okay.
But some cases, sometimes someone doesn't come into us until 2 years out. And so we'll sort of order their medical records and, discover what their injuries are and really figure out how badly are you injured, what are the future damages and medical costs and that sort of thing that the at-fault driver's insurance company should be on the hook for. And, but when you're running up against that statute of limitations that bars you, if you don't file a claim in court in time, it bars you from ever pursuing the claim. So sometimes we'll file, and then, if it goes down the road, we can't get a good settlement, we go down the road of litigation. We've had cases that, you can be in litigation for years,
Wow. Yeah.
A case I settled last year was a big, complicated case, but I think it was in litigation for about, from the time of the wreck until the time of settlement was just over 4 years.
Wow.
So every case is different. Some cases, if it's a smaller case, and they heal up in, 6, 8, 10 weeks, 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's probably not going to last a year.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a complicated case where there's the injuries take a long time to heal, some people that get severely injured, it can take some time to just know what the long-term consequences are. It can take a year or two just to figure out how badly are they going to have these injuries for the rest of their life. And then we have to get expert life care planners and doctors to give us opinions on, what are their pains going to be for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
If you got hit on a bike and run over, for instance,
Yeah.
you could have some severe injuries.
Well, the statistics are pretty staggering. When I was looking at, whiplash, for example, you go to the ER, you don't have any broken bones, you're not bleeding, you got some neck pain, you look relatively okay. Well, I don't remember exactly what it was, but after a year, it was a very high percentage of people that still were in pain. And so that's, for me, it's super important when I get someone in here like that to try to give them care as soon as possible, because the quicker you can get after something like that, the statistics of the pain after a year go way down. And there's a lot you can really do for somebody, but yeah, just because someone doesn't have a broken bone or they're not bleeding doesn't mean they don't have a super serious injury that could turn into something chronic in one of those more serious cases that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, we deal with that a lot. People, they call them soft tissue cases because you can't see it on an MRI, you can't see it on an X-ray, but you might have some nerve impinged in your upper neck or a bulging disc or something it wasn't symptomatic before, and after the crash, now it's more symptomatic and causing you a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And I think, one thing we kind of pride ourselves on is, trying to make sure our clients get better. Obviously, a case has value the more severe the injuries are, right? Because you're going to have more medical care, it's going to cost more, you might have more pain and suffering long into the future. But one thing we really try to do is say, hey, look, we're going to get your medical bills paid. Make sure they get paid by the insurance company. Why don't you go get the care you feel like you need? Some people don't fully understand when they come to us, or maybe the insurance company adjuster saying we're not going to keep paying for care. Well, then they feel like, well, I can't get the care I need, and 3-4 months go by, they're still in pain, and then they come and see us, and we say, no, you should definitely go get the care you need to feel better, and we'll work to make sure that those bills are paid so that you're not going into debt, just to feel better. And so we really try to do that, and there's a lot of providers in town that frankly probably benefit from us making sure we get the bills paid, because it's hard for them to sometimes get them paid, or they get initially denied, but then once the attorney's involved, all of a sudden they get paid, and so, there's a lot of benefit not only to our clients, but also to the other, providers that help treat our clients. And frankly, it's kind of funny, trial attorneys and plaintiffs' lawyers sometimes are viewed sort of negatively in society because of, you hear cases of, jackpot justice, or, the McDonald's case people always talk about, and, but, we're really in the background, the one pushing for our clients to get better and get treatment. And we're also making sure that all the providers that are working for our clients and making them get better, like you as a chiropractor, are getting paid for everything. And if there's a billing problem, we're going to push to get it paid. Or if there's a lien on the file and there's a settlement, we're going to make sure you're getting paid. And, we're really the only ones that don't get paid unless we get some sort of settlement or verdict for our clients. We're kind of just pushing to make sure, look, let's make sure that our clients are getting better, and no matter what it takes, we're going to try to do that.
Right. I don't know if it's something that's more common in bigger cities, but I've had friends who are chiropractors who have had a hard time working with PI attorneys, because it seems like there's a little bit of a struggle. But I've just been super impressed with your team, yourself and your team, because I just feel like we're on the same team. We're working together. You're in our corner, and more importantly, you're in the patient's corner, making sure they're getting taken care of and advocated for, because that's a scary situation. You get in a car wreck, you're dealing with new injuries, you've never been through this process, and to try to navigate it by yourself, you need someone like you who knows what's going on and what the laws are. So thank you so much for everything you've done for my patients, and then like I said, I've just enjoyed working with you guys, and it's been super easy, which is what it should be, hopefully. So.
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, it just goes both ways. It's nice to have providers that, that work easier with us, because then we can know, look, we've got a good relationship. We can, a lot of times billing becomes an issue because providers get frustrated, but I know I've handled a case recently where we got some bills paid that hadn't been paid for 4 or 5 months, and we get this chunk of money and make sure you get paid. And we're out there trying to do our best to make sure people are getting paid.
Absolutely.
But then our clients are getting healed.
Right. Keif, where would somebody find you if somebody was injured, they wanted to work with you? How would they find you?
They'd find us, our phone number is 406-442-7830. Usually it's easiest to talk on the phone to understand a claim. But our website also, they can look on there and see, we've got a lot of information on there through our blog posts that talk about, your rights as a victim of a car crash and what you're entitled to and what you're not. That sort of thing. And that's lawyerinmontana.com.
Okay. Lawyerinmontana.com.
Yep. Yeah. So we're not quite as active on Facebook and Instagram as we probably should be, but.
So phone number and website are the two best
Those are
ways.
two of the best ways. We have a contact us form on our website, which we get people coming in for, and then we can follow up with a phone call. But a lot of our people just give us a phone call right off the bat, and that's the best way to reach us. We're a smaller office, so you're going to talk to some staff first, and then more likely than not get patched right through to an attorney.
Oh, wow. So you're getting a real person and then most likely talking to one of the attorneys.
Yeah.
That's great. Great service. So, well, thanks, Keif, for coming on the show. You do great work. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast.